Hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hi.
it's just the both of us this time.
Yes. Finally, I will not be staring at the screen throughout this entire show. We have a
Yes,
lot
that
to
would
talk
just
about
mean me
today.
talking the entire time, which is not good. How's it
Okay.
going, Prachi?
Ah, good, good. I mean, Friday, so always good.
Yeah,
But at
that is
least,
true.
so you need to tell us which city you're in now. Since,
Unfortunately, this time in Bangalore, but I will work on it for next week. Let's see what I can come up with. But this week I'm in Bangalore.
well, this my husband has gone to Pondicherry, um,
Mm,
this morning, but
okay, nice.
well, yeah. Well, hopefully with all the cyclones happening every now and then, hopefully he makes
That
it in
is
one piece.
true. That
Yeah.
is true. Did you drive down?
Yeah. Yes, yes, driven
Okay,
down.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's hope the weather holds up.
Yeah. Well, next week again, I guess. Please give us experience matters from like Goa or
Oh
any
no,
of
not
your
next week. You will
escapades.
be in Gurgaon though, right? One of us traveling, I think, should suffice.
Yeah, yeah.
Good enough.
And I,
I
before
will
we
look
get
for
started,
2 weeks from
I apologize in advance for any guest appearances my dog might make. It's this is
now.
she's just
Always better let Lucy join.
yeah, she's just
Make it more
excited to
fun.
be on experience matters. Yeah, she has a lot to say about data.
Awesome.
Ah,
Shall we
okay.
get this going? Shall I kick it started?
Yes, yes, let's get started. So, just what we're going to be talking about today. If you guys are joining us from Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn, we've been talking about the power of data. We are going to be busting some myths around why do companies still not use data in their decision making. And we've also had some fun over the last week, just running our own surveys, gathering our data about how people behave around the holidays and what's actually happening out there. So we're going to show some of that data to you as well. And then we are also going to let you know how you can get some of that data just by sending us some questions. Okay,
Awesome. Awesome.
I think that's good. Just though, I think what I'm seeing from our broadcast is we might be facing some issues broadcasting on
With
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. Mm.
Yeah, so if there's anybody who has seen this post or is able to see glimpses of it on LinkedIn, please join on YouTube. Um, and I hope LinkedIn sorts itself out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Otherwise,
Hopefully.
the entire episode is being recorded.
Yeah.
We will post the link up on LinkedIn again. You will have access to it on YouTube, and like Prachi mentioned, your Facebook, Twitter, all of those different avenues that you can watch the show.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Perfect.
You want me
Yes.
to share your screen?
I'm going to bring up a nice, meaty presentation. Okay. And yeah, there we go. So, yeah, what we were talking about, this is again data. What we've been doing over the last 1 week is just really running surveys, gathering our own data, talking to people on, how, what's really going into their decision making at their organizations. And sorry, talking to people across Australia and the US. This is what our sample said, and there's great numbers. Definitely lots of people, lots of companies still relying on market insights um, to for their decision making. But so we see 43% market insights, 36% historical data. Um, this is where it gets a little concerning, where it says 32% of people actually still, or companies still rely on intuition based on trends, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is, yeah, so that's
Pretty
why
scary.
we
Yeah.
see, yeah, you see marketing campaigns failing, you see just businesses incurring so much cost on, probably, um, sorry, producing the wrong, adding the wrong features or releasing the wrong products. And we're going to talk about some of that, how different companies actually faced that in a bit. But yeah, um, intuition based on trends should definitely be the last thing that's a part of your decision making. It's just so important to actually run run surveys, run focus groups, and there are also a lot of marketing agencies or market research agencies that do research and release reports. So really, anywhere to get data is a good place.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, good number here though, like 15% are actually relying on competition benchmarking. And last week we actually had Adi and Shivani, you spoke about competition benchmarking. And I think it's great to know that actually that's what people are doing in the field as well.
Yeah.
But then we have this shocking 13% of management directives, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just blind faith saying, we'll do whatever the higher ups
It's
think
been told
is
to
the right
us.
thing to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
So
I mean,
for me, right, I think this 15% of competition benchmarking would have
mhm,
been happier if that number was higher. Just to
yeah,
be clear, they selected the most important. So just one selection of what goes into decision making, right? So if agreed, it should not be completely based on competition benchmark. So taking that into consideration, it's not bad, but it's definitely an important feature just to see where the market is trending. And we've done projects like this for some of our other clients as well, right? Intuition based on trends is definitely worrying. 32% is a lot.
yeah.
So that is something that you need to back that up with data. Your management directive, that's fine as long as your management is making these decisions based on data as well, right? Based on trends that they're getting from, and number one being market insights. That's right,
Mhm.
you through your market research studies, through the data that you're collecting from surveys, whether it's MR, your brand related surveys or customer experience surveys. It just, as long as it's coming from the data, from the market, and you're able to back up any sort of decision with data, you're always in the safe space, right? Otherwise, if maybe an initiative fails, you're going to be questioned on it, and then there is no you have no answers to give. You're going to say, I thought this was going to work. So um yeah, but
Absolutely. Yeah.
there are to be fair, there are quite a few reasons as to why companies don't go make their decisions based on data, right? There are apprehensions there are reasons. I think, do you want to just shift to the next
Yeah.
slide?
Yes, we will. Just before we move on, though, so what would you say? So out of all these five that we have, what's a good mix
Mm-hmm.
of things that companies actually should consider before decision making?
Yeah. So market
So,
insights for sure. I think number one. I think it's great to bring in historical data. Trends. History repeats itself. I feel in some way or form it may not be exactly the same, but then your trends are going to be the same. Definitely bring in historical data and couple that with competition benchmarking, right? So competition benchmarking will kind of tell you where the industry is headed, what the future is going to look like, what are things that competition is doing that you're not doing, and historical data of how the market has reacted to situations like this. So those two on par, and then definitely your market insights as number one.
yeah, yeah, brilliant. I think that's
Yeah.
that's really the sweet recipe of everything. Yeah. And yeah, now we also asked, people, why are their
Yeah.
companies, still often not relying on data? And yeah, sorry, this is what we got. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so we see a really high percentage actually saying budget constraints. Um, and similar, actually, if you see a similar split across, so budget constraints, limitation of legacy systems, to cope with the data driven culture, or the company does not have a data driven culture. And also, which we see a lot and we hear about a lot, is inaccessible and siloed data. So you
Yeah.
have different teams, some team has some data, but it's just not available across different teams. So, lots of information, lots of insights are getting lost along the way, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
no, I think budget constraints, we just hear about so much, right?
Yeah.
But I think we need to bust this myth about budget
Yeah.
constraints,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, so budget wise, I think there is a lot of generally what we see also working with our clients and working, just talking to people in the market. It is still assumed that, if you're going to invest in data or a platform that can get you data, it's going to be super expensive, right? And I need
Yeah.
to have like great ROI from the very beginning to justify this huge cost that I'm going to incur. But the reality of the thing is, it's actually not a huge investment anymore because there's so much development in technology. There are so many alternatives. And you have to start somewhere. You have to start small. So it's actually, I would encourage, people who are listening, any companies that, get any of this a part of our show, just do the research, right? Get the
Yeah.
data actually on how much it costs to invest in a platform. And
Mhm.
more often than not, you will actually find out that it's quite, it's affordable compared to um, exactly how much cost you're going to save in probably failed marketing campaigns or, just a poor customer experience. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one and two kind of go hand in hand, right? You don't need to change your
Mhm.
entire legacy systems. You're gonna have softwares in place, you're gonna have BI tools in place that can talk to your legacy systems, right? You don't need to uproot the whole thing, get a massive budget sign off by leadership. It might have been that way 10 years ago, not anymore. You're going to be able to make those improvements in your data and have it talk just lies with your existing systems just to make that data analysis better, right? So a lot of things that can be done, like you said, that you do your market research. There are depending on what you want to do also, right? So if you want to get a central repository with all of your data, right? So that is one kind of tool that you can invest in, which again is not going to be too expensive. Now, if you want to update your existing billing systems, make your experience a lot, the customer experience a lot better. There are smaller, different applications or softwares that you can invest in, and not just make this one big, massive change in investment. So that's there.
Mhm. Yeah,
The
absolutely.
third one is your data-driven culture, right? So, and again, it's easiest when leadership, the directive comes from leadership. That entire data-driven culture is driven from the top management downwards. It doesn't have to be the case. It is easier, but it doesn't have to be the case, right? You can make those cases and take it to your leadership just with small wins, just showing them improvements, step-by-step process, and making any sort of data, decision based on your data is going to prove results. Maybe not immediately, but down the line, right? So you can convert that into case studies, you can convert that into success stories, and then take it up. That kind of allows you to build this culture, and it can start small.
Yeah, yep. And I think our favorite Excel, still exists in every company, no
Yeah.
matter like what you're using. Yeah, at the
Yeah.
end of it, you're going to end up making like a little list on Excel and making little pivot tables. And that's a great place to start as well, because what we're concerned with is really just gather your data, take a look at it, any form, anywhere. And yeah, it's going, like Shivani said, it's just going to, you can always influence upward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. What about
Siloed data.
inaccessible and silo data? Yeah, that's just it's. like a mammoth of an issue, right? We see all the
That
time. Yeah.
absolutely,
What do we
absolutely.
what do
And
we
the
do?
thing is,
Mm.
it's more of a problem in bigger organizations because
Yeah.
every department is running their own studies, right? Every department is investing and doing the research themselves, not really taking into account, has this been done in the company before? Do we actually have
Mhm.
this data? Do we really need to run this study, or do we, was it run by another department, and we can leverage those insights? So unfortunately, a lot of budget gets wasted there because it's just duplicating of the work, simply because the
Mm.
departments just don't talk to each other. And we've spoken about this in the last few experience matter shows as well. It is extremely important for everyone within the company, the different departments, to work together, to liaise on each on the work that the other person is doing, that you can learn from them, as well as take all of the information that they have invested in to collect, and then leverage on that as well. So silo data is a problem. It continues to be a problem, but it is easily solved, right? And we spoke about the softwares that are available. You can invest in those softwares, and then they just automate the entire process for you, right? You don't really have to even speak to the department. You just get all of that data available on your computer, and then it's just deprecated across the entire organization. So you definitely look into those, and it's an easy fix.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. So actually, a couple of months ago, we were looking for we wanted to launch some marketing campaigns, and it at first felt like such a mammoth of a task. Like, okay, so we're gonna have to start all the way from like collecting this data, then we're going to, the whole like copywriting, I mean, writing copy and design and everything. And then, but before we went into any of that, you know, we actually dug into the data that we already had in
Mm,
house, and
mm,
life became just so much easier. So, like, our other marketing teams had done all the work. So, we completely had we actually had that data actually resided, just had been inaccessible or in a silo, we would have done like maybe 6 months of work all over again, but make their life
yeah.
so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I find that
Very
pretty
true.
exciting. Just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
how we, as well at Question Pro, how data driven we have been. I think that's exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we, like Prachi said, we practice what we preach, right? Anything at Question Pro, it takes time to develop these features, right? And at Question Pro, we have quite a few features, multiple products. So what direction do we go? Do we really need to invest in this additional
Mm.
feature that we have? Everything for us also is backed based on data. Are our customers actually asking for it? Is it a trend in the market that we should be adopting and we should be including? So there is that, but it's also, once we have quite a few customers across the globe, multiple offices, multiple regions that we have our clients located in. So how do we make sure that our customers are using all of the features of the product, right? All of that is also just making sure we're collecting the right data, just making sure all of our decisions are also based on the right data. So what is the extent of the usage of the different features? What is the NPS, right, that is coming from our clients? All of these things that we kind of combine, and then have a roadmap that's built out for the product and for the servicing team, and how we approach the market. So
Yeah.
yeah, so like you said, everything for us as well is based on data.
Yep. And this is happening across departments. It's like marketing, it's happening at the HR side. Everyone's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it's really exciting just to actually see decisions being made based on historical data or market insights. It's pretty
Yeah. Yeah.
great. I think, great. Now we want to have some fun, right? Start with some fun stories, some use cases. Yes, Shibani, please kick us off.
Sure, sure. So we did speak about how Question Pro uses data, but this Question I also wanted to highlight stories from large companies, large organizations, and one of them was, and I was reading on this, on how Starbucks dealt with the entire pandemic, how they because they're just everywhere. They have multiple locations, but even outside of the pandemic in 2008, I think they had quite a few locations that had closed down, right? And their CEO actually was upfront and very clear, saying that, okay, we opened locations based on intuition. Based on just what we thought would be a good store, good location. We didn't back this up by data, but that is something that we are going to do and change in the future, right? So they tied up with location-based analysts and things like that, and also heard from the local markets. So took into account demographics, took into account, the store location, region, parking, a lot of things that went into it. And then they decided and invested in locations, right? On where they need to open up these new stores. They changed the way they, looking to grow the entire brand and the places and the number of stores that they wanted to open. So that was one. But with related to the pandemic,
Sounds pretty
right? So
amazing.
they were, yeah. But specifically with the pandemic, the way they were able to, react so quickly is because they invested in understanding the data, invested in, what are the new trends that are there in the market. And then, they were able to test that very early on. And then when a situation like this came into play, they were able to drive and kick it off. So one of the examples is in China, they teamed up with Alibaba. So, Starbucks was always, you go to the store, pay at the store, collect your drink, your food, and then you can leave. They also had the drive-in feature, right? But nowhere did
Right.
they have the at-home delivery, and they saw this market really picking up. So they tested it out a year ago. This was in 2019 or so. Tested it out in China by teaming up with Alibaba. It was a huge success, right? With they tied up with 3,000 Starbucks stores in China, and then delivered it to their home. So they learned from that. They ironed out those issues, and 2 weeks after the lockdown was initiated in the US, in 2 weeks they had declared that across the entire US they will do at-home deliveries, right? For something at the scale or Starbucks scale, moving at a pace of 2 weeks is unheard of, right? Because they had tried it, they had tested it, they knew that the trends that were there in the market, they were able to get ahead of the curve and actually benefit from that. So yeah, it applies to small companies, it applies to big companies, everywhere. If you are invested in data, if you're invested in understanding what your trends are and actually looking towards the future, it is going to pay off.
Yep, no, definitely. And just talking about the pandemic, I think very similar in terms of how they use data. But so we were talking about, if you remember, the Hamad Medical Corporation in Qatar. Yeah, and they did some amazing stuff with data as well. So, like just at the get-go, when things were getting, hospitals were starting to get a little crowded, and there was news coming out of China on how how this was spreading, how the COVID was spreading. They actually acted pretty fast. They had teams that just focused on gathering data and creating predictive models based on this data. So, and what they said was basically if they had just gone based off of what the market trend said of, they would have probably planned for 500 acute beds. But because they had this predictive model where they were basically collecting data on how many people were getting admitted daily and severity of the cases, they kept updating their models and actually prepared for 4 times that scale. And so, and it did not go to waste. They actually ended up needing that scale. And they were actually a lot more prepared had they, just imagine from like 500 is what the trends tell you might need, but actually your data tells you it's 4 times that. Right? That's just so huge. But and I think this is great stuff, great story that I was reading, great case study. And also, of course, then they put forward that even after the pandemic, after all of this, now there's a very heavy data driven culture in the organization, because what they did during the pandemic made them realize, and now everything is data driven.
Yeah, absolutely. But going by just relying on what your government tells you, or what the steps are already being in place. So Ferrari in Italy, right? So they went through like a really bad time. But when the situation in China, in Wuhan itself was, it was getting bad, they forced, had the insight to know that this is going to spread across the world. So before Italy even went into lockdown, 2 weeks, before that itself, Ferrari had insisted that your employees stay from home. They banned travel. They, had these medical kits that were sent out. So they really got ahead of the curve and made sure that their the business, the factory, their employees, everything was taken care of. And the thing is, once they did that, it just didn't end there, right? They were, as soon as that was taking place, work from home started, they already started working on, okay, how do we, when we open and when Italy cancels the lockdown, how do we ensure that we are back on track as quickly as possible? So it's just not one decision, it's on an ongoing basis, right? If you don't make one decision and then you end there and see how that plays out, you're constantly looking at what is next and how do we improve. So and also based on that, they had reached out to employees, made sure that channel of communication was open. Based on the employee feedback, they changed the way the health benefits and things that they were providing, not just to your employees but to their vendors as well, changed all of that, so that in the end they were protecting their employees and really making sure their future is safe, right? So
that's
yeah,
brilliant.
it's just
That
everywhere.
helped. I'm
It's
sure
just
that,
everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, and I'm sure that did really well for their retention and stuff, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Hmm. Great. I think that's those are quite great examples. And I think lastly, even on our last Experience Matters show, Adi was talking about what Procter and Gamble did
PNG.
in China.
Yeah.
Yes, just
Yeah.
so amazing, so brilliant. And I just keep
Yeah.
going back to that case study and reading it again. They completely, again, completely based on data, how they basically captured the diaper market in China. And actually, I was reading about it. They ended up making in the beginning a bunch of course, they saw some failures because um, initially they again went based on just market intuition on based on market trends and assumed that what China wanted was just cheap diapers. So they made lower quality diapers and they just made them cheap, but nobody bought them. And after a long time, they realized, okay, maybe softness also matters. So then they were like, okay, we'll make soft cheap diapers. Turns out still nobody wanted them because China was actually fine with cloth diapers, and they had the generations were working a certain way, and that's when finally they relied on data and did like a huge study with the Beijing, I think, Sleep Research Center, and found out that kids who were wearing the diapers were falling asleep faster, staying asleep longer, and that was also linked to better cognitive abilities. And finally, used that data in their marketing campaigns, which then completely blew up. So
Brilliant, right?
years of
Yeah.
just
Just
getting it wrong, and then finally
yeah.
you ask the market and you know what you need.
Yeah. 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 It's just brilliant, and I loved it when Adi brought it up last week as well. It's just a phenomenal case study, right? Just how you can
Yeah.
change the trends and get everybody on board by giving them that data. So
Yeah, and I think
brilliant.
now, at least in the diaper market, they're still the largest player in China, and they're now going to thinking of doing the same thing in across like other countries, doing more, like local marketing, actually doing research and changing their entire campaigns accordingly. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great learning.
Awesome. So
Awesome.
we have data and insights from the holiday
Data.
season. There you go. Where is this data from, Prachi? It's instant
Oh,
answers, right?
yes. This is Question Pro Instant Answers. This is our own panel. And we surveyed Australians and people from the US and generally other people from APAC. And this is a combination of that data.
Got it. So we'll show you some of these fun. We are in the holiday season, we'll show you some of these data that we've collected. But if your company, just give you an idea of the questions that you can ask, right? So if your company needs any data that you need to verify, you have questions that you want the market to answer, share them across. We'll be happy to run that through instant answers for you, and then supply you with that information and the insights that are coming from that. These are simple questions that they can answer. Give them a multi-choice option, and they can select that. You can also run it as a much larger study. We'll come to that on how you can leverage audience to, if you had a bigger objective from the project that you wanted to run. But yeah, holiday season. You want to walk us through these?
Yeah, so we had a lot of fun. Like I was saying last week, this week, just shooting out all these questions, and we got these answers really quickly. But great insights. So we asked people how they're traveling. Are they traveling this holiday season? Of course, great to see that travel is actually coming back up. There are 53% that are doing domestic travel. I'm pretty sure that had this not been what COVID has done to everybody and to international travel, this would have been higher in the earlier years. But yeah, there are still people doing domestic travel, international travel, very few though, but tons not traveling at all. And yep, so we're looking right now. We're just looking at very high level data, right? If a company was to use any of this data, of course, we would recommend just diving deeper and deeper. But this high level data, just for a little bit of conversation, this is telling us that people are doing a lot of domestic travel, and they're mostly visiting family, right? Some want to spend time with their friends. There's few that are going on the solo trip. Maybe it's the international travel going on solo trip. You see 7%. We also had a couple here, like 2% that were traveling for work. We didn't put it up here because that's very sad.
Don't travel for work on a holiday. Depressing.
Yeah. Oh, God. But yeah, so visiting family, domestic travel, and now we think, where are these people who are celebrating the holidays, where they're going to be shopping? Still a huge number of people, 55% want to walk into a store versus online shopping, right? And very few
which is considering the situation that all of us are now, I expected that number to be much lower, the walking into the store. But I have to call out these dancing trees at the bottom of your slide. Man, it just sets a mood. I love it. I love it.
The holidays indeed.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so walking into the store, like you said, right? I think maybe it's a different experience altogether when you're shopping for family and friends, and you want to have more of a intimate experience buying those things. But great. And yeah, I think this also came out of myself, because I buy all my presents last minute. So it's like, maybe let's see what people do. Then they shop last minute. Apparently, too many people are too organized for last minute presents. But then a really high percentage is actually shopping at their neighborhood shop. So it's not your big retail stores. It's not Amazon. Well, Amazon is close, but still not winning. It's definitely not at the airport when they're going, to visit family. But it's actually your neighborhood shop. So I think this would be a great starter for, let's say, retail stores to start their planning on. Okay, maybe we need to find a little more data to decide where we should open our next store. Something like what Starbucks did.
And recycling is not a thing, is it? I thought it was completely acceptable. Clearly
Yeah,
not.
it is
Clearly
very
not. But
acceptable.
yeah,
Also,
yeah,
you have to be okay to part with those gifts. Maybe they're
that
just too
is
good.
true. That is true.
Yeah. Okay.
But this
Yeah.
was fun. This is what are you looking forward to the most during the holidays? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Most people, 62% time with the family. But a really large percent also just want me time. So
Yeah.
I guess we've we've gotten a little more comfortable just being by ourselves through the pandemic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
but still most of the people time with family. That means, people are, if they're spending time with family, visiting family, domestic travel, buying neighborhood stuff at their neighborhood shops, I would stock those neighborhood shops with like stuff that you would take for your nephew and your niece and your mom and your dad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was our little uh, fun with data that we had this week.
Yeah, so it's for everyone who's joined, one, of course, thanking you again for joining. But our simple questions like this that you need answers for, literally goes by the name instant answers. We'll be able to run that for you and get back to you with that data fairly quickly. But if you had a larger objective in mind, we do have third-party panels that we integrate with. You can come to us with your objective. We will design it, design the questionnaire, collect the feedback, do that analysis, and come to you with those insights as well. So you can, depending on what the objective is, you can go both the routes, and reach out to us, and we're happy to help you with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be putting all this, uh, all the data that you've just seen, we're going to put it on LinkedIn as well. You can message us on those posts, or you can message us separately or send us emails about exactly what Shibani said. If you have a project that you want to, just explore, we're happy to do that. And if you have any holiday questions that you just want to, you want to have fun with, let us know, and we'll get the data and we'll feature it on page as well. Okay.
Awesome.
I think we
Just
have rambled on for a good
ending
amount of time.
for a while, but I do want to end with what are your holiday plans, Prachi? What are you doing?
this, this is, yes. My holiday plan is, I have decided to do the third most stressful thing in life and move cities.
Oh
So
man.
that's what I'm using
Yeah.
my holidays for. Yeah. Moving cities
Oh
with a
gosh.
dog
Yeah.
who, yeah. So I have kept this very interesting, very entertaining. I probably will be
Yeah.
spending time with
Yeah.
family because I'm moving to family now.
To family. Yeah.
What do
Yeah.
you?
Lovely.
Yes, you have
I've
big plans
time
for
with
the last
family.
2 weeks, right? Nice.
When I say
Mm.
big plans, I just meant like spend time with family. That's pretty much it. That's what we do every year. So holiday
Yeah.
traditions, Christmas party, time with family, we kind of check
Mm.
all those boxes. So
Christmas tree
it's going to
is
be fun,
happening.
and I'm looking forward to it. Always, always. So
Nice.
December 15th or so, traditionally we've always put up the tree at home. So that's
Mm-hmm.
going to happen. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just looking forward to it. So it's nice.
That's awesome. So probably the next couple of experience matters we have, you can show us the tree in the background. That'll be
Yes,
nice.
done. All right.
Okay.
All right. Anything
Awesome.
else that we have?
Yeah. No, we're all good. Now we'll just, I know LinkedIn might have messed up our video a little bit, but we'll post this on LinkedIn.
Mm,
We'll share it, everywhere else. So anybody who missed it can, we'll also just share the insights we spoke of. So you still have access to it. Okay.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you all for
Okay.
joining, and we'll see you next week.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun. See you next week.